Well, first of all, the last few sessions have been mesmerizing. As a lawyer who's almost been practicing 60 years, they were absolutely mesmerizing. And frankly, as a lawyer who grew up in Springfield, Illinois, and became a lawyer because Lincoln was a lawyer, I had no lawyers in my family. I didn't know anything about the law, but Lincoln was a lawyer. That was my role model. I became a lawyer. And I never thought about it, and I'm still an active practitioner. And I love every minute of it. But when you can get the energy that you get now, the respect for these people that are doing what they're doing, number one, it just embodies you to do more. So John, that was a really terrific, and I'm just saying, where do these people come from? Where do these people come from that every day are doing what they're doing? And so thanks you to all those that did it, and thank you. It really, we don't say thank you enough in our life. And so when we see people like this, tell them all thank you. And when you see them on the street, thank you, because they need it. They're doing the Lord's work, and they're doing it for less than most people appreciate. They think they might make, and they're just doing great work. So, and we need more of them. And I was figuring out, well, I said, we want $1.5 billion, and we have a $4.2 trillion budget. So there's some room in there for more money. And this is really a call to action. And I think that's what John and what both of you are doing, is a call to action. I became a lawyer, and as John said, and I joined my first practice. I graduated from DePaul in '66, went to Knight Law School, wanted to be an assistant U.S. attorney. So I decided that that's what I wanted to do, and I went for it for 2 years. And Chris was here a few minutes ago. One of the people who was instrumental was a protege of his father, Robert Kennedy, who helped me get into the Justice Department, and I started there and became an assistant U.S. attorney and rose up through the ranks. But in '75, the current U.S. attorney decided to leave. At the same time, a man named Edward Levy was being appointed Attorney General of the United States. And I couldn't even mention his name without in awe. And all of a sudden, I found out I've got an interview with Edward Levy in Washington, D.C. And I'm thinking, and I've been in the Attorney General's office before, but not with someone of that stature who come with that reputation. And I was very nervous. And all of a sudden, he immediately made you feel comfortable. And he said to me, well, you're going to learn a lot in your new job. And I said, yes, sir, I am. I've only been a lawyer six years, and I'm going to be a United States attorney. I can't believe it. He says, well, I'm new to the job. We're both going to learn together. And we did. He was a role model for me. He was an unbelievable person to work with. And he would consult with you, but he would ask your opinion and then listen. And he asked me, and because I was his hometown U.S. attorney, he didn't want me to fail, because he's my attorney general, and I'd had 9 of them. I didn't want him to fail, and especially one from Chicago who what he represented, and he wasn't. And he went on to become, in the 2 years he was attorney general, one of the finest, if not the finest, attorney generals in our history. And by the way, on that list, there's 2 or 3 others, but one of them is Bobby Kennedy, Chris's dad, who in a short period of time changed a lot of things as well. So I had the opportunity to meet with Robert Kennedy briefly in 1968 before I was sworn in. But my mom told me when I was growing up, associate yourself with good people, they'll bring you up. Well, she really told me a different way. She said, when I was sitting next to some very sharp person at IBM training, and I went home and told my mom I was sitting next to him, and she knew of him. She said, sit next to him, he's smart. I'm not sure what she meant by that, but she was telling me hang out with good people. Well, first of all, my boss is United States Attorney, is Edward Levy. How could you have a better boss? How could you have a better person? How could you associate yourself with better people? And little did I know that venture would lead to a lifetime of Levy's. And it's ironic. I started working for Ed Levy. Sorry, I never called him Ed Levy, by the way. I never called him Edward. I called him Sir. I debated President, Dean. I couldn't quite figure out what to call him, so I called him Sir. And he would say Sam, and I'd say Sir. but he was easy to talk to. He led the department at the worst time of his life, and he became a dear friend. And he would talk occasionally about David. His son was in college at the time, and his younger kids, but I didn't really identify with him. And then after I left office, I joined Sidley in Austin, and I met his son, John. And I want to tell you, because John wanted me to introduce me, because he was afraid to introduce his brother, so he wanted me to do it, so I'm doing it. But I get a chance to talk about John for just a minute, and I think we ought to. John, what John has done, John is a life force. John is organized, John is thorough, John is kind, he is nice, he's in his image of his dad. That's the kind of person his dad was. So his mother was that way too. I knew them both. John, what he has done with this Legal Services Corporation is nothing short than magnificent. It started right in '75 when Attorney General Levy and I were there, and it started out, and what he's done today, and there's room to go. I would just may say that we need a plan of action afterward, and we want $1.5 billion, and our budget for the federal government is $4.4 trillion. Anyone wants to figure that out, there's plenty of room for some more money. I hope we can get it. But the other one, then I thought, John said David. Well, I followed David. I didn't know him well, but I followed David all his career. First of all, he followed his father. Got a PhD. Doesn't talk about much about that in history. Didn't talk much about that. Then he decided he wanted to do what I wanted to do, ironically, is to go into public service as an assistant United States attorney after clerking at the court. Then we watched him as he grew his career, and John and I talked about it all the time. And then he went on to become a United States attorney in Sacramento. And then he became a United States district judge and a rock star. He was called upon to do all kinds of things like that. Then he decided, after all of that, he wanted to get back to where his dad was, a dean of a major law school. So he went back, and my son and grandson went to Duke, neither to the law school. I tried to get in. They didn't even open my envelope. But he took on the deanship at Duke and took that law school to a next level. And he did so with the same style and class that his dad did. And then he's decided that enough's enough. He goes back and he does this, he does that, he does this. You want to read his bio? Go on Google. It takes this long to find him, with all the things he's done, all giving back. And now he's doing that with ALI. So we have got a superstar. The Levys are a superstar. My mom was right. Associate yourself with good people. You'll learn from something, and more importantly, you'll be gratified. You'll be honored to be there. Judge Levy.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you for that kind introduction. And thank you for having me here today to talk about access to justice. I'm going to be speaking as the president of the American Law Institute, which we call the ALI, and as the former dean of the Duke Law School with its many clinics. John is my brother, obviously, and I'm so proud of the work that he and others at LSC are doing to enhance access. I'm particularly impressed by the way that LSC and its leadership have been able to navigate the stormy waters of division and partisanship that we see in the country during our time. John has been appointed by 3 different presidents from both political parties, and under his leadership, LSC's tradition of nonpartisanship and its important message that access to justice is a professional responsibility that transcends party lines are both thriving, and that's so important. Congratulations to LSC on its 50th year. The American Law Institute, which many of you probably don't know much about, has just celebrated its 100th anniversary, and like LSC, is also an access to justice organization, although not quite in the same way. The purpose of the Institute, as stated in its founding documents, is to promote the clarification and simplification of the law and its better adaptation to social needs, to secure the better administration of justice, and to encourage and carry on scholarly and scientific work. In short, to make the legal system more usable, more knowable, and therefore more accessible. From the very beginning, the concept of an institute of law captured the imagination of the leaders of the bar, the bench, and the academy. The incorporators of the ALI were none other than William Howard Taft and Charles Evans Hughes. And through to our time, the Institute has continued to draw into its ranks such extraordinary lawyers, judges, and academics as Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Justice Ketanji Jackson, Chief Justice Margaret Marshall, and our new director from Chicago, former Chief Judge Diane Wood, and that's just to name a few. The ALI reporters that we use to write our work are among the finest law scholars that we have in the country. After 100 years, the ALI is still motivated by the desire to make a significant difference to the better operation of the legal system. Its restatements, model codes like the Model Penal Code, and the principal projects continue to guide and assist courts, legislatures, and lawyers to such an extent that much of this work has been adopted or enacted into law. Several years ago, and consistent with its mission, ALI member and immediate past president of LSC, Jim Sandman, proposed that the ALI undertake a new project on access to justice. The Council of the ALI approved the project, and the first meeting of the advisors to this project will occur next month in Philadelphia to consider a 238-page draft covering approximately and only just the first half of the project. The project is called Principles of the Law of High-Volume Civil Adjudication. The chief reporter is David Engstrom from Stanford, and there are 3 additional associate reporters who are also distinguished scholars in this field. Ron Flagg, John Levy, and others who are here today are among the advisors to the project. The purpose of this project is to suggest best practices and approaches to the administration of high-stakes but small-scale cases, cases that now make up the better part of the civil docket of the state courts: debt collection, evictions, home foreclosures, and child support enforcement action, among others. The reporters tell us that the cases that overwhelmingly populate high-volume civil dockets bring particular challenges because they pit an institutional plaintiff, a bank, debt buyer, corporate or municipal landlord, the government, nearly always represented by a lawyer, against an individual defendant, nearly always self-represented. In fact, in 3/4 of filed civil cases each year, at least one side lacks a lawyer. The reporters further suggest that given pervasive asymmetries in expertise, representation, and resources, continued adherence to unmediated adversarialism cannot be defended under any reasonable theory of due process or procedural fairness. The project aims to provide actionable guidance on how to modernize courts to address the challenges presented by high-stakes, small-scale civil cases without compromising either party's ability to receive a fair and accurate determination of the party's legal rights. The principles will focus on 5 areas: procedure and case management, court administration, the use of technology, increasing the supply of legal help and its uptake by self-represented litigants, and adjudication alternatives, including alternative dispute resolution mechanisms and dispute avoidance. A comprehensive project like this will help the courts and other entities understand the contours of the problem that we face and some of the innovations and possibilities that now exist for mitigating the justice gap. Simply pulling together in one place the considerable body of work that has been done to study the justice gap is also a great contribution. I'm very excited and hopeful about this project. As disturbing and difficult as the justice gap is, there is also so much dedication, as we've seen, innovation, research, and possibility right now as we try to do better. I'm sure that we can. I turn now to law school clinics. It's understandable that the ALI is so focused on disparities in representation in this new project. If there's one point that the empirical research on access demonstrates convincingly, it is the critical importance of legal representation to the outcome of many kinds of cases affecting low-income litigants, such as eviction actions. Representation by a lawyer makes all of the difference. Such studies as we have also suggest that law students acting within clinics provide legal service at a level comparable to that provided by more senior practitioners. This is not so surprising because the students are really good and dedicated, and they are very well supervised by often extraordinarily talented lawyers who are also terrific teachers. I well remember that when I was a judge in the Eastern District of California, what a wonderful assistance it was to the court to have students from the UC Davis School of Law representing prisoners in Section 1983 cases. Clinics can also be centers of research and innovation. They can experiment and then study different practices and service delivery models. They can collaborate with legal incubators and pro bono law firms. And they can try things that individual lawyers cannot. For example, a few years ago, the Civil Justice Clinic at Duke, seeing an inexplicably high eviction rate in Durham County, convened a meeting of housing court judges and administrators, legal aid lawyers, and law firms representing landlords. While there was not a consensus on every issue by any means, what came out of that conference permitted many more mutually beneficial settlements and far fewer recorded evictions. Of course, the benefits to the law school and to law students are many and palpable, as the panel will surely explain. Many students come to law school with a burning desire to help others through these clinical experiences where they can mobilize the skills that they are developing through study and in the classroom. They get to do just that. And it is so motivating to them, and not just to them, but to the entire law school. And at a time when students and faculty are apparently having trouble respecting and understanding different points of view, it is also so helpful to have a cadre of students who are trained in effective civil, meaning civilized advocacy within an adversary context. And surely these benefits can be extended by more programs and by taking the clinical model into the law firms. I'm very pleased to introduce the next panel, a conversation with local law school deans about the ways in which their law schools are trying to help close the justice gap. This group of law deans is quite remarkable. They are all accomplished educators, scholars, and leaders. Thomas Miles is the Dean of the University of Chicago Law School. Nikki Booth is the Dean of the University of Illinois Chicago School of Law. Michelle Alexandra is the Dean of the Loyola University Chicago School of Law. Hari Osovsky is the Dean of the Northwestern Pritzker School of Law, our host. Thank you. Jennifer Rosada Perea is the Dean of the DePaul College of Law. Anita K. Krug is the Dean of the Illinois Institute of Technology, Chicago-Kent College of Law. And Camille Davidson is the Dean of the Southern Illinois University School of Law. Moderating the panel is the wonderful Martha Minow, who's already been introduced and needs no further introduction to this group. She is the former Dean of the Harvard Law School. Please welcome Martha and our panelists.